When we think of supply chain dominance today, we think of Amazon. We think of algorithmic routing, fulfillment centers, and same-day delivery. We view the global supply chain as a modern invention, something born from the Industrial Revolution, supercharged by the internet. But what if I told you the logic of modern logistics wasn't born in a Seattle warehouse? What if the same playbook routing, consolidation, security, and finance was already running at scale across the Sahara nearly 1,000 years ago? Because the empires of the Sahel Ghana, Mali, and Songhai weren't just kingdoms. They were state-backed trade systems, multi-city networks operating in one of the harshest trade environments on Earth. And they solved the same categories of problems modern logistics solves today, without code but with systems. They didn't have the internet, but they used check-like payment instrument systems like the Suftaj Along before modern Western banking rails were standardized. They didn't have delivery vans. They had the most optimized desert transport platform ever deployed, the Camel. So today we're doing a business teardown of the Trans-Saharan Trade Network. We're going to break down the unit economics of the Camel, the hub-and-spoke logic of Saharan trade cities, and the financial software that kept value moving. Welcome to a case study on the original masters of supply chain thinking. To understand the scale of this operation, you have to start with demand. In the medieval world, the Mediterranean and parts of Europe had intense demand for gold to mint currency and store value. Meanwhile, the Sahel and the regions to the south had high demand for salt, an essential commodity for preservation, diet, and survival. The Sahelian empires positioned themselves as the middle layer. They executed a massive geographic arbitrage, connecting what the north wanted with what the south needed. But the challenge was the Sahara. Imagine running a shipping company where the road is an ocean of sand, water is scarce, temperatures can be brutal, and the journey takes weeks. This is a logistical environment that would wipe out most modern operations. Yet merchants didn't just survive it. They engineered a machine for wealth generation built on three verticals. First, the hardware, the Camel as a logistics unit. Second, the network, the hub and spoke infrastructure of trade cities. Third, the software, the credit and paper-based payment systems that reduce the need to carry cash across the desert. Let's start with the hardware. In logistics, your margin is defined by efficiency. In modern terms, we'd call it cost per ton mile. How much does it cost to move weight over distance? In the ancient world, horses were common, but horses are terrible desert logistics. They need frequent water, higher quality feed, and they don't handle extreme heat well. If horses are sports cars, then in the desert, they are a bad investment. As camels became widely adopted for Saharan travel, they changed the economics of distance. Because camels can carry heavy loads over long distances in extreme heat, and they can go long stretches with minimal water, exactly the kind of endurance that collapses resupply costs in desert logistics. Compared to horses, they dramatically reduce the fuel and replenishment burden during transit. And here's the key. The Sahelian merchants didn't use one camel. They scaled the system. Some historical accounts describe caravans so large, they reached the scale of thousands, even up to 12,000 camels. That's not a group of travelers. That's industrial freight moving as one coordinated convoy. Now think operationally. Managing a caravan at that scale requires discipline, staging, loading, pacing, security, and navigation. You're not improvising. You're running a mobile supply chain. And because the Sahara is a high-risk corridor banditry, loss and environmental failure desert logistics needed experts. Merchants relied on specialist desert guides, professionals who knew routes, oases, weather patterns, and survival tactics. In modern terms, they were the human navigation layer, the equivalent of route intelligence built into the operation. And the camel wasn't just transportation, it was the platform that made the entire network viable. Without it, trans-Saharan trade would shrink dramatically, and the flow of gold and salt that shaped medieval economies would look very different. But hardware alone doesn't create wealth. You also need network architecture. You need hubs. You need consolidation. You need a place where goods are sorted, taxed, rebundled, and redistributed. This is where the hub and spoke logic enters. Modern logistics doesn't move everything point to point. You don't ship every package directly from its origin to its final destination. You consolidate volume into hubs, sort it, and redistribute it. That maximizes efficiency and reduces costs. The Trans-Saharan Trade Network followed the same logic. Cities like Timbuktu and Gao weren't just settlements. They functioned like fulfillment hubs, places where goods were aggregated, taxed, sorted, and redirected. Timbuktu, in particular, sat at a crucial intersection: the desert trade moving from the north and the river systems connecting into interior markets. It wasn't just a city, it was an intermodal transfer point. Merchants arriving from the desert with salt and northern luxury goods could offload. Goods could be taxed and recorded. Cargo could be redistributed, some moving by river into interior markets and production zones where demand and supply met. This hub behavior accomplishes three business objectives. First, revenue capture. When trade flows through specific nodes, the state can levy tariffs. You create predictable tax collection. You take a cut of every transaction passing through your gates. Second, risk reduction. Concentrating trade into large caravans and predictable corridors reduces exposure. If you can protect routes and hubs through alliances, patrols, local authority, you reduce the piracy problem. You can never eliminate risk in the desert, but you can manage it. Third, market making. Hubs become price centers. When buyers and sellers aggregate, the market becomes liquid. You don't just move goods, you create a place where value is discovered, negotiated, and standardized. And once you have a hub with reliable flow, something else happens. Knowledge accumulates. Trade hubs attract merchants, administrators, scholars, and craftsmen. Wealth supports institutions. Places like Timbuktu became known not only for commerce, but for scholarship and manuscript culture. Information like inventory data becomes an asset. Not just what you move, but what you know. So far, we have hardware and network. But the most sophisticated layer of any supply chain is not the truck and not the warehouse. It's the financial rails. Because if your logistics is strong, but your payments are weak, your whole system collapses into theft, friction, and inefficiency. So let's talk about the software of the finance. Imagine you're a merchant in the 1300s. You need to travel huge distance through a corridor that carries risk. You need to buy high-value goods, gold, salt, textiles, manuscripts, metals. Carrying that value as piles of coin is heavy, dangerous, and inefficient. You have a liquidity and security problem. Long-distance trade systems in the broader Islamic world developed paper instruments for exactly this reason, including a payment mechanism known as the Suftaja, a check-like instrument, often described as a type of bill of exchange or letter of credit. The logic is simple. Move value without moving bags of cash. A merchant could deposit funds with a trusted intermediary, receive a written payment order, recognized by counterparties, travel, and then cash it out at the other end through institutions that trusted each other. This is a medieval cousin of traveler's checks and letters of credit, a way to decouple the movement of goods from the movement of cash. And once you decouple those two things, your entire system upgrades. First, you reduce risk. Even if you're robbed, you don't necessarily lose everything because the value isn't all riding in coin on the caravan. Second, you increase velocity. Merchants can do business faster. They can extend credit. They can buy inventory based on future sales. They can run operations on trust, contracts, and reputation, rather than only on what they can physically carry. Third, you scale networks. Paper instruments create relationships between distant nodes, trusted counterparties, verifying claims across distance. It's the same underlying idea as modern banking networks, a system of institutions and norms that validate transactions. And this is where the narrative about the Sahel often gets simplified. People love the image of gold, especially Mansa Musa, gold bars, gold coins, gold stories. But the deeper point is this: the metal is not the system. The system is the infrastructure that allows the metal to move. A sophisticated economy isn't defined only by resources. It's defined by coordination: credit, contract, trust, administration, enforcement, routing, timing. When you can move high-value commodities across extreme terrain, at scale, with repeatable reliability, what you're looking at is not a primitive trade route. You're looking at a supply chain. Now zoom out to macro impact, because when logistics and finance are strong enough, they don't just enrich one city. They reshape regions. They affect markets far away. There's a famous story tied to Mansa Musa's pilgrimage account that says his spending and distribution of gold in Egypt depressed the value of gold for years. Historians debate the scale and the exact mechanism, but the story captures a real point. Sahelian gold flows were powerful enough to ripple into Mediterranean markets. That means the Sahel wasn't simply on the edge of the global economy. It was connected to it, influencing it, feeding it, and profiting from it. And it did this through a combination of logistics throughput and institutional control, trade policy, taxation, route management, and financial instruments that made long-distance commerce viable. So when people say supply chains are a modern invention, the Trans-Saharan network is a direct rebuttal. Using camels as hardware, trade cities as hubs, oases as resupply nodes, and paper-based payment instruments as software, merchants and states in the Sahel built a machine that moved commodities, information, and wealth across extreme distance for centuries. And if you want the clean modern translation, it's this. The core principles hubs, consolidation, risk management, and credit were being engineered long before barcode scanners. So the next time you track a package on your phone, remember the fundamentals of that transaction. The hub, the spoke, the routing logic, and the credit layer didn't start with apps. They were mastered long ago under the Saharan sun. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the business history of the world, make sure to like and subscribe. We break down the engineering of wealth house civilizations built systems that still shape our world. Thanks for watching.